We can get started. I'm Iris. I'm the co-founder of TabAI, and we do Excel workflow agents. Like you saw, some people have already tried it out. And then Dylan here, we have the honor to welcome Dylan today, who is a senior director at Ernst & Young. He's going to share with us about his use cases for how he is currently applying AI to his workflows and his unique perspective of how AI is shaping this industry. From the beginning, I would like to ask this question of how did you came so far in your career? How did you get started? Tell us about your story.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. My career, I started at PwC. Well, I guess before that, I graduated from SUNY Oneonta in 2017 and then did the CPA and started my career at PwC in auditing, which I did for about 3 years. I was working on large financial institutions such as JP Morgan and the audits of some other small specialty insurance companies. And then about 5 years ago, I moved over to EY. Previously, I was in a compliance role, wanted to move more to advisory, where I felt like I was providing more value to my clients rather than in that compliance role. So for the last 5 years, I've been doing financial diligence, helping corp dev and PE clients assess their acquisitions, structure transactions. I've done some financial transformation work, helping companies change GL systems, doing a carve out, re-engineer financials, figure out the future state of those systems and work on that transformation journey. As you can imagine, a lot of heavy Excel work, working with huge data sets. So Iris, when I saw you and Andrew demoing this product, I was like, I need to be involved and I have to figure out how to use this because it just felt like a game changer for my workflows.
Wow, that's such a big compliment. Thank you. That sounds like a very interesting journey. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about like what is like finance due diligence? Like what's your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So financial diligence, I think there's really two sides of it, right? There's a buy side and a sell side. So I could either be representing the buyer, in which case I'm really digging into the financials, trying to put together a view of what does normalized earnings look like, right? Because throughout any year, there's all this activity that's maybe one time in nature. You had a legal settlement or a change in pricing. But for these PE and corporate development buyers, they're trying to understand, well, on a normalized level, like in a normal year, what does earnings look like? What does cash flow look like for the company? Because on a go-forward basis, right, that's what they're expecting. So that's on the buy side. And then on the sell side, it's really helping these companies prepare for a set of buyers that's going to come in and ask these same questions that I just described on the buy side. So as you can imagine on the sell side, it's a lot of random data sets. It's like, how do we figure out how this reconciles to the audited financials? So a lot of stuff like that. And TabAI could help save a lot of hours throughout the whole process.
How many files do you usually have to process for one project?
So it's hard to put a number on it because, you could receive 10 files or like 12 files for 1 year of revenue by customer. So like it could be anywhere from 50 to 100 on each project. And then it's figuring out how do we aggregate those, reconcile them back to financial statements or trial balances, general ledger, and then how do we analyze it? So there's a couple kind of steps in between there.
Got you. That sounds like a very time-consuming process. Yes. How long does it take usually to from receiving the data the client gives you to putting together something that makes sense at the end?
Yeah. So the projects are typically about 3 to 4 weeks on the buy side. Mm-hmm. Sell side, it could be up to 5, 6, 7 weeks, depending on how good the data is and how clean it is and how long it takes to prepare it and put it in a way that you could actually show to buyers. So it really does range and it depends on the quality of data.
Got you. Have you seen any AI being applied in this field currently? Is there any solutions you have tried?
So I work at EY. Obviously, they have a partnership with OpenAI and Copilot, and I've used the Copilot product. I think what's been most useful for me is that chat. You could kind of put in large financial statements or really kind of word processing stuff, and it'll give you good inputs. I think on the Copilot side, it isn't as good as analyzing data, like understanding what's in the file, generating analysis. So my experience so far with AI is in my job role is generating questions for a management diligence meeting or sort of more word processing stuff rather than providing a lot of value on me in the Excel file.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. I think what I is trying to do is like bridging this gap between having to copy paste back from Excel and really bring in this agent that can actually act on your behalf, not just having a chat. So I would love to see how you actually look like from our domain experts that like it's actually applying an agent inside Excel to help with like some real world tasks. So I know that Dylan very kindly prepared a small Excel file that he's going to show us how he applied TabAI to help his workflow. So,
Absolutely. Let me know if you can see it.
Yeah.
So when we kind of talked about, what task or what should we ask AI to TabAI to do, I thought, this is an accountants for webinar session. What is the single most important thing in the financial statements? How do we get comfortable with them? And it just hit me like, how do we not cover bank reconciliations in the first session? Just because of how important this is to validating the financial statements. Right at the end of the day, the financial statements are denominated in cash. And it's like, how do you get comfortable with what's in the general ledger and what's in the financial statements if you can't actually reconcile it back to kind of bank statements? So that was my idea of what we should do on the first session. So as you can see on my screen, this is kind of a bank reconciliation template. And I'm just going to plug in this prompt so we could get TabAI going, and then we'll kind of continue here. And then I guess before I explain the prompt and what we're doing, I did want to just call out what I've seen TabAI could do that I haven't seen in Copilot, which is actually reference specific tabs and specific cell ranges. So that's just what I'm doing here to help it understand exactly what I'm asking for. And then the other thing I would say is, so this is me referencing specific tabs, but you could also, I think it'll come up. If I just highlight like this table, I could say, hey, update this as a template. And I think that's the one thing TabAI does really well is when you highlight specific ranges and you point it there, like, hey, this is what I want the ending analysis to look like. Like, can you recreate it off this new data set? And kind of giving it those examples are where it really excels from my view. So I guess real quick on the template, quick overview on a bank reconciliation. What do we have, right? We have our ultimate goal is to reconcile what is the cash balance in our general ledger to what, if I open up a bank statement and I look at it at each month end date, what is that bank statement balance, and sort of reconciling those two and understanding what the differences are. And really they should be timing differences. It is key to this entire process. So we're starting with the bank balance per the bank statement. You have outstanding checks. So these are things that, maybe today I wrote a check to someone, they haven't cashed it yet. In my general ledger, I decreased my cash balance. But since it wasn't cashed yet or it hasn't cleared the bank, that is a timing difference from my bank statement because the cash hasn't left my account yet. Next one is deposits in transit. So I received a check or a wire and I know I received it. I increased my cash balance, hasn't cleared the bank yet. So that's just, it's reflected in my GL, but it's not included in my bank statement. And then lastly, things like bank service charges or interest, right? Those are on the bank statement, but maybe I just haven't recorded the entry in my GL yet. So high level, that's what we're trying to do is figure out those bridging items between the bank statement and the GL. And what I gave TabAI to do, and would be interested to hear from the crowd how long you guys think this would take. is really reconciling these two data sets. So the first one is just an export of a bank statement, has receipts, debit card transactions, checks. And then we have our GL activity, which is just an export from a GL system of obviously similar transaction, but there's some things that are in sort of the bank statement data set that aren't in the GL and vice versa. And that's really ultimately what I'm asking TabAI to figure out and to do for me. So maybe I'll just pause there for a second. Interested to hear from you guys, like how long you think this would take. You can put it in the chat, yell out either one, but I think this will, at the end, once we figure this out and once it works, we can figure out what's our return or like what do we get from actually using the tool. So interested to hear from you guys.
Interesting. I think to me it looks like at least a half a day task. Do you want to put the sidebar wider so that like people can see more details?
Iris is like, you're making my product look bad. Like,
no, I understand sometimes the windows are crowded, especially on Windows.
Yeah. So it's interesting what it'll do. It'll basically look at, I'll help you prepare the bank rec. It'll understand the different data sets, and then it'll really list out, okay, well, what do I have to do? I got to analyze and identify outstanding checks, fill the template, and then verify balances. So it is interesting how it knows how to do this, but it really is amazing on what it could do. So as it works through here, I guess once it's done, I kind of have this final summary and accuracy sheet, which will really compare. I basically did it manually, and we'll see, does it come up with the same results? What's my percent accuracy? And then we could think about, well, what's my return there? But I think some people said how long they think it would take. I don't know if it's a half a day, maybe like 2 to 3 hours, I would say. I guess it depends, right? Like how many times have you done this account? Have you done a bank rec before? I think there is a wide range, but it's definitely a couple hours. So we'll see how it does. So here's the template. You could see it's kind of working through and populating outstanding checks, bank deposits, bank charges. I did ask it to spit out at the end a list of all the reconciling items. So it looks like it's getting there. I did want to, the way Iris, interested to hear your perspective too, but like the way that I think about AI for accountants, right? Like I don't see this tool replacing me or like accountants, right? The way that I think about TabAI is this is almost an assistant for me. And like, I know agent is like the technical word, but like it is just someone that's going to help me get there and like save me time. But at the end of the day, like this isn't going to replace or be able to fully complete every task to completion. And I do think that's just kind of an unfair expectation of it.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, like we don't want it to completely do everything anyway, right? Like there needs to be some human looking at this stuff. Interested to hear sort of how you think about it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point of view. I really like this term that is called AI-powered accountant or AI-powered financial analysis. So like we basically leverage all these AI tools to help us be more productive and save us from the heavy lifting, the groundwork, so that we can focus on much more important stuff. So I had this story when I first started my career in finance, where I was like handling 10 projects, and each project is like 20 tabs files, and then I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm a good financial modeler, but then at some point, because I'm handling so much data, when I was updating a cell, like I didn't see there's a negative sign in front of it. And then like I just accidentally deleted it, and that caused like a huge swing in my valuation. And that was a time when I started to think about, hey, how do I help myself first, like in terms of automating my workflows that are repetitive, so that it can actually free my mind, free my hands to think about the true impact, the true implication after the data is already cleaned and ready to be linked, ready to be analyzed.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So it looks like it's building up a whole sheet on reconciling.
Yeah, so it's building basically the reconciling detail. It looks like it's still trying to kind of figure out this last $73. I mean, just from looking at it, it's obviously a signage issue of this just flipped the other way. So I think this just goes, and I'll let it finish here. Maybe it figures it out. But this just goes to the point of like, hey, like it got me, 95% of the way there. The only thing I have to do is change a negative sign to a positive. Um, so, I mean, I'll let it finish here. Maybe it figures it out. Um, but interested to hear kind of reactions from the group of I guess, have you done this? Like, do you have to do bank statements? Do you think this would be valuable for you? If not, what do you think you would use it for? Or like, is there some sort of workflow that you have that you're like, yeah, like I could definitely use this? Interested to hear. And Mohammed, I might call you out just because you're the only one.
No, I was gonna speak out anyway. A couple of things come to mind as you came to mind as you were going through the analysis, right? So first of all, does it matter to have? I mean, more. This might be an Irish question. Does it matter that you have a structured data set? So, for example, your bank statement, right? So, not every institution will give you data in Excel, right? Now, all these bank institutions can give you an Excel output, right,
Yeah,
or books or whatever, but most of them give you PDFs,
yeah,
right? That's one. Then your other side of the reconciliation, the GL data. The GL data is based on people booking entries and putting in the right descriptions. What happens when the description is not right, right? So how does it reconcile between the two? First of all, so Dylan, just to answer your question, this is amazing. It does exactly what I would expect me to do if I was a robot. But yes, it goes. My mind just takes me back to the quality of the data that we put out for
Yeah.
TabAI to reconcile.
Yeah. And maybe Iris, if you want to take the first one, I can take the second one.
sure. Well, with the first one, I think the good thing about like, that a lot of things that weren't possible in the past that is only possible today with AI agents is that it doesn't taking a specific template. It doesn't have to be a specific template like a ERP or a kind of any kind of these old softwares where they force you to have these fields and it must be in these orders and these formats versus like agents is able to understand. So like if you notice the first action the agent always do is to read through your existing sheets to understand how your data is being laid out, to understand where I should be looking at, and then like where there might be some discrepancies that I need to focus my attention on. So all of these decisions are made by the agent, which is like the truly intelligent part that finally free us out from all these templates that we have to force ourselves to work with. That's why a lot of sectors are not being served as well because there's no one fit out software in the past. So people have to spend all this time in Excel for like 12 hours to be able to build some of their own template inside Excel. And then now the AI is able to go in and understand what's your structure like inside your workbook and trying to work with it. And then there are, of course, some limitations and small like its intelligence is here, but I'm pretty sure in the future it will help clients to more and more complex tasks. But right now, tasks such as data cleaning and then help you generate insights and stuff like what Dylan mentioned, is already at a pretty good level of capability.
Yeah. And I guess to answer one of the things you mentioned too, you talked about like you receive bank statements not in Excel, you receive it in PDF. I think the one thing it's funny that you call that out because TabAI actually can intake PDFs and turn them into Excel. So it's like, okay, fine, I don't receive this, but I receive 20 bank statements in PDF. You could sort of point TabAI to those PDFs and say, convert these to Excel. and then run this analysis. And maybe there's like an intermittent little formatting you got to fix up in the middle, but you no longer have to type in, right, like all that crazy stuff into Excel in order to even get to the spot that we're looking at now.
It's a great call out. Yeah. I think PDF to Excel is definitely one of the biggest pain point that people are like, why am I still doing this manually today? And then TabAI can definitely, you can just drag and drop or attach your file, your PDF file through that. And you see the small paper clip button. So you can just directly upload it here, and then you can even ask it to put it into multiple tabs with like the total linking. So like some tabs additional on top of like PDF converted to Excel, it's also capable of doing that.
Yeah.
So what happens with the matching part? That's the part I'm trying to understand. It might not be the right time to try to understand your coding, but like how would it know, right? So for example, like you have a debit balance. You might have two debit balances, but they relate to two different invoices or two different transactions. How would they know what the difference is?
So I think what it's doing is it's actually looking at the date of the transaction and the actual amount. And it's saying, well, what's in this population that's not in that population? Like I have the individual rows here. If I thought hard enough, like I could come up with what eventually, like iterating through it, you figure out, oh, like it's narrow it down to like these 6 things are different between these two populations. And I think that's what it's actually doing here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, I can take over the screen briefly for like just showing how you could convert PDF into Excel real quick. So if you can see my screen here, I have this latest Q2 financials from Apple. So I can just ask, hey, can you put this 3 statements into 3 different tabs, right? And then make sure totals are in formulas and checking for the PDF. So I used to deal with a lot of the fixed income reports before, and then a lot of times very annoying to convert the report from PDF into Excel. And then now with TabAI, it's like really a 5-minute task or even less, which is the lifesaver for a lot of people. And then recently we built up this feature that directly pulls from QuickBook Online and Zero. I don't know if any of like the audience use Book or Zero. If you do, I'd be very happy to discuss afterwards, like what are your biggest pinpoints with them, and then like how agent can help you pull data from it.
And this thing completed Iris too.
Oh yeah, wow, yeah, I didn't know this. So here it has already created 3 different tabs and already formatted the first one. Now it's formatting the second and then the third. So now we can even ask it like, can you generate a chart, like the breakdown of Apple's product category. And compare this color over the past. So yeah, how long did it take? It was probably 2 minutes. That was super helpful. Oh, I see a question. What are the typical mistakes you guys observe using it, still dealing with data cleaning or transforming data from PDF to Excel? Would the AI read the numbers wrong? That's a great question. I would say if your PDF is very clean, like meaning it's like not handwritten or anything, that's like very clean resolution. It has a very good accuracy in terms of putting the numbers right. But then if you ask it to recreate your formulas, then I would be careful and cross-check with the original PDF to make sure that the numbers are right. Data cleaning, I think, is similar concept where I would force the AI to use formula to do my data cleaning. For example, if I want to do like matching, index match, or VLOOKUP, I would like really want it to use or force it to like, hey, can you create a matching with formula to make sure like, and then so once I send that and then the AI generated formulas, it's much easier for me to check during the data cleaning process. And it is just like my habit of each time when I do a data cleaning, I always prefer to use formula instead of like manually do it because it's always traceable and verifiable. So yeah, I think I will hand over back to Dylan while I'm running this analysis, and then we can send over the files at the end.
Cool. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Oh no, it just crashed. My computer's not acting fine. Let me share. Can you see Iris?
Yes.
So, I mean, this is where it ended up. I think the one thing that's funny is just the signage on this outstanding check. So you see the difference here is 10K. I think the only thing it messed up is that I need to flip that from a negative to a positive. Like it gets you 90% there. It has these, it basically got you everything correct with the exception of the sign flip there and my thing left out here. I would give that like 90 to 95% accuracy. And then I did just kind of want to talk through like from a professional services standpoint, right? Like if you are a public accounting firm that's doing bookkeeping services, right? What is the actual impact of using this tool? And what I laid out is sort of an attempt to quantify the return on investment. So if we look at the table right here, all we have is, different employee salaries from sort of a high level to entry level. And what is that rate per hour? And I think where we landed is this task takes maybe 2 hours, but what is the range of like our savings if it took 3 hours at 150 versus someone that's getting paid 150K versus 1 hour at someone getting paid 60K? So what we thought about is, well, what is the cost for the task? Obviously, TabAI is sort of charging on usage. I think after we ran this test, we looked at how much did it cost, and it was $1.51. And then we compared that to, well, what are my savings, right? Like if in a professional services environment, my costs are the labor, the hours per employee, because I could be putting that person on a different project. So we basically compared that $1.51 to the low end and high end of labor costs. I got pretty ridiculous ROI numbers here. And then lastly, we basically assumed, okay, that's for one bank rec, but what about 660, 600, right? For sort of firms of all different kinds of scale. And then, obviously the ROI is consistent because we took the midpoint of the labor costs, but you kind of see how the savings really scale with size.
Wow, this is mind blowing. It's like very, very interesting how I guess like because the Big Four, where all these companies is like they charge per hour, and then actually if you break it down through the like per hour point of view, this is like a really helpful framework to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way I think about it is there's two different sides, right? There's the consulting, like public accounting use case, right? Where we have professional service companies doing bookkeeping for other firms, but then there's also the corporate accountant. So this quantification is like on that public accounting side, but as far as an internal back office accountant at a corporation, that's a harder ROI to quantify, because if they use the TabAI for the tool, they're not directly saving that hours of cost because they're getting paid a salary, but really it's difficult to quantify because maybe they focus their time on other value add activities. But this presentation is really focused on the professional services because it's easier to quantify.
Yeah, this is super helpful from leadership's point of view. Like, how do you think about whether you should adopt AI or not? Like, how does it actually bring impact to the business itself?
Mm-hmm.
Not just a productivity tool.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we get another question. How is the adoption status rate of AI tools like TabAI Big Four accounting?
Yeah. So I think right now in my job, EY uses only sort of Microsoft products. So Copilot, like Enterprise Copilot that integrates with Excel. There's a chatbot. It kind of lives in Outlook. They've adopted kind of those tools, which are mainstream. But I kind of talked about this a little before, that TabAI and Copilot are not the same. I can't really tell Copilot to look at this range and to perform the same analysis. It just doesn't perform the same way. And I can't even reference certain ranges or sheets in Copilot. So the adoption from, I can only really speak to EY, is that they've adopted Copilot. I think it's just not there in terms of understanding the Excel file, but I think they are sort of pushing for adopting tools similar to AI. I think the one difficulty, and this is sort of across every company that's in the AI sort of startup space, is that they face compliance and getting past IT functions just because of the large focus right now that's on data privacy and compliance. So I think that's the one thing that's sort of blocking and difficult to navigate for startups in this space. And I do think it is an important issue, but I think that's kind of how I think about adoption for startups, and really the major players like OpenAI product is who's integrating large companies such as I know the Big Four.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's all I had. I think TabAI sort of crushed this task, saved a lot of time. And the one thing for me is that I could write the prompt and I could go do something else and come back and look at how it does. And, maybe it gets me 80% of the way there. Maybe it's 95. But that's the other thing I think is big, is that I could work in sort of other Excel files. But definitely would be interested to hear sort of what takes up a lot of time for you guys. Like, what are the use cases when you watch sort of this demo that you think, yeah, I could use this for? Just because, I would love to learn too what I think the most value is. Are there any questions?
I think we got a question from Eva. Accounting can be quite technical. Which areas do you think TabAI is strongest in?
Yeah, I think, and I would love to hear Iris obviously use the tool so much too, and what you think, but I feel that TabAI is best at generating sort of commentary right now on hey, I have earnings from 2 years and I have a general ledger or trial balance. Tell me what's driving this difference. Or sort of here's a P&L variance analysis period over period. Explain to me what's driving change in earnings. And I think it does a really good job just because it is at the end of the day, the backend's like I won't be technical here, but like it is a large language model, right? In some sense, but keep me honest, Iris, but it is amazing at sort of generating that commentary. And then the second thing I would call out is really just generating analysis. So like if I had this GL activity and I said, hey, like, could you just tell me what happened to my cash balance during this month? And like, what are the main drivers and sort of the key trends? And it does a good job of sort of summarizing that in different tables. So that's been my experience. But Iris, obviously you developed the product, so interested to hear what you think.
I think that's great observation. I think that's totally aligned with what I also observe on my end, what the AI is currently good at, which is majorly two parts, right? First is data cleaning or data processing. And second, it's like data analysis, insights generation. So on the first part, it's where you can ask it to write your formulas, to clean your data, convert the currency, like clean up, like I deal with a lot of fixed income reports where like it's like 0.500 and when I want to use formulas, I have to convert it to 5 first and then start to depreciate my assets. So stuff like that, like really time consuming data cleaning part can be very easily done, including the PDF to Excel and all these data pools we just showed. And then the second piece is, I think your understanding of large language models like totally making sense. It is where after the data, you can ask it what changed, right? What is the variance analysis? Like compare two sheets, create some charts, and like compare what's changed from Q1 to Q2. So all these insights generation, the AI is very good at. And the thing that AI is not good at currently is building me a model from scratch. So if you try to ask it to build a model from scratch for like DCF or even to balance a 3 statement, it is a pretty hard task for AI right now. And then I can understand that because I used to be a TA for finance and accounting class at Columbia. And then after the whole semester, there's still like half of the class who couldn't balance their 3 statement. And then like I'm sure like people here also understands like sometimes when it's really so many steps, like towards the end, it's very hard to trace back and see, okay, what is messing up my sheet. So that piece is what the like the frontier AI labs are currently looking into and then like advancing it. For the future steps.
It's so funny you mentioned like 3 statement because like there's just so much stuff in your head about like different checks or different things that are supposed to work, like my balance sheet equity has to include my net income from the P&L, and like it still has to like there's just so much in your head that like the AI just doesn't understand yet. And doesn't understand exactly how it should work because like think about how difficult it would be to take all that in your head and put it on a piece of paper. Like there's just so much there that like it makes sense why they would struggle with that.
Totally. Eva has a question. Oh wow! So Eva has a question on: do you have to work a lot initially on the prompting till you get to know how to do it to get to the result you need?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I really wrote this one I think I wrote this one time, maybe 2 times, and it sort of got there, but like I wrote this pretty simple. Like I didn't write this in technical terms, right? I said my goal is to perform a bank reconciliation and fill out this template. The 2 sources are X and Y that I want to reconcile. Please fill out the template by identifying the 3 things here, which I probably didn't even have to call out. And then, you can identify reconciling differences using the amounts and dates. And the difference at the end should be 0. And I think that's key too, is like defining the goal and like establishing the parameters of like, here's what I want you to do. But like, I need the ending point to look like this template, or I need this difference to be 0. So I don't think it, I wasn't super technical in writing this. I think it kind of understands if you just are laying it out how you would lay it out to your associate or anyone you're working with. And I think from my experience, that's kind of been enough.
Another question we have is question about turning PDF into Excel. Is it possible to make sure that it aligns with certain style, the font, the color from the original PDF?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it has I think TabAI can, when you tell it to, right, it could professionally format things. I think sometimes maybe it's a little off and you have to edit a couple cells to make it super clean. But I do think if you gave it the direction of, I need you to make it look exactly like this template looks, from my experience, it's done a pretty good job. But Iris, how have you seen it?
Yeah, I mean, I could even show screen on what I have seen so far. That formatting is another huge time-consuming piece where you have to replicate the formatting. And a very cool thing that I really love from TabAI is that if I just randomly find a chart from the website and I just drag and drop into it, it could even just mimic the entire chart for me and recreate that into Excel. So if I just search something like pie charts, I'm not sharing screen right now, but give me 1 second. So even like a pie chart like this, which is super large, and like, can you recreate this? It can even help me with replicating this into a table and then put that into a pie chart. Of course, it will not perfectly match, but it would look similar. And then while this is running, I also want to show another cool thing, which is the memory. And I think we got an early question on how do you make sure that your data is always linking and correct. Oh, wow, that's fast. So how do you make sure your data is always linking and correct? And one way is I keep this in my memory, which is like, hey, you have to make sure you always link your original sources using formulas. You do not hard code numbers. And it's very emotionally strong that you shouldn't hard code numbers. So this is like one trick that I do to make sure that it always outputs something that I prefer. And so if you have specific preference on the colors you want to use, the font you want to use, you can totally tell the AI and the AI will remember. And then here we see this whole replication of this entire table that usually would take so long for us to like input manually one by one from this hard-coded charts. And now it's like recreated inside Excel super fast. So I think it concludes today for the major demoing part. I want to end this session by this question of, this is a time for feature requests. So if there's one thing that it's like the most time consuming for you right now, and you wish that it could be automated today, what would it be? And then if you tell us, it might actually come true. So please let us know if you have any ideas or something that is you think that should be automated, that humans shouldn't be doing it, and it's taking so much time for you. Thank you so much, Dylan, for being here today and showing us how you use agent. And we all learned so much from you.
No, I mean, I'm excited to see, how TabAI keeps going and develops further. The product's great. Love using it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us today, and feel free to connect through LinkedIn or shoot us an email for any thoughts and any questions you might have. And then connect with each other and do some networking. I think we're all cool people here that want to learn more about how to push our industry further in this new age of AI. All right. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steven.